When it comes to buying a vehicle here in Nicaragua, things can get frustrating and complicating and confusing at the same time, especially if it's your first time. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips I learned about purchasing a vehicle here that I wish someone would have told me, in hopes to make your life easier. So welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I am living in Nicaragua, and in this channel I share my experience with you of tips, just daily life, and also rebuilding a family coffee farm. So let's go ahead and get started with the 5 tips you must know before purchasing a vehicle here in Nicaragua. Tip number 1, bring a mechanic. Let me tell you why. I'm gonna tell you a story, okay? When I first bought my first truck here, I did not bring a mechanic. I went to a used car dealership, and according to the owner of the dealership, the truck was in good condition. To his defense, I did test drive it and it drove well. But after buying the truck and having it for a few weeks, it turns out it was burning a lot of oil. It was almost too much, which it was costing too much money to own. So I ended up working out a deal and selling it back to him and getting some of my money back. Sometimes you're not as lucky and they won't take the car back. So that was my story with my first truck. But when I bought this truck right behind me, my second truck, I did bring a mechanic, and I was able to find a mechanic, and he charged me $50 to come inspect the truck with me, which $50 is worth it. So the range for a mechanic can be between $50 to $150, depends how far you're traveling to buy this truck. So I recommend it, bring a mechanic. You can go to your local mechanic and ask them how much they would charge you to travel with you to go look at a truck. You gotta keep in mind that here in Nicaragua, vehicles don't have high mileage like in the US. They have low mileage, but the mileage they have are hard miles that they travel out in the backcountry, or they overload the trucks. So you have to consider those kind of things. Also, vehicles here in Nicaragua, they keep them on the road forever. You'll see a truck from 1940s still running and carrying people across the country. Because of that, that means that there's a lot of mechanics that work on vehicles and they do a lot of patchwork. So if you have someone with you that knows the system and knows how it works here, is gonna save you a lot of money in the end. So that is tip number 1. All right guys, major key alert here. Tip number 2, it is paperwork. Okay, look at this right here. This does not look clean, okay? It's not like in the US where you have a clean sheet and it's easy to read and you know what's going on with the vehicle. Here in Nicaragua, there's a trend. It is common that when someone sells the truck, the new owner never does the paperwork. So he just drives around with the truck under the previous owner's name, and eventually he sells it. So then when you go buy a vehicle, you might buy a vehicle that has been transferred 4 times, and then the title is still under the original owner's name. So when you go pay for that vehicle under the system, in order to get the paperwork under your name, you're gonna be charged all those back dates. So major key on tip number 2 is check the paperwork, okay? And the way you check your paperwork is that you wanna make sure that the name on the listing here is the same as the person you're buying it from. It has the same license plate numbers, and all the dates are up to date, and all the payments are up to date. If the paperwork is not up to date and the owner you're buying it from hasn't transferred it, it's not a deal breaker, but you can use that as a negotiation point to say, look, I have to pay back taxes, I have to pay a lawyer to get this under my name, we need to reduce the price. Now, I'm gonna make a whole separate video on the process of the paperwork of buying a vehicle, but just know, when you buy a vehicle, that same day, you have to go to a lawyer to get the vehicle paperwork done. It's not like you have a pink slip and both the owner and the buyer can just sign off and you guys walk away and you mail it in. It's not that way. You have to go get the paperwork done by a proper lawyer. So you will need to search one up or have one ready. Just a FYI, that is a major tip. Just keep that in mind. I'll be making another video on that process of that. So just make sure you subscribe if you want to tune in for that. All right guys, number 3, this is a major one too, okay? Avoid small dealerships on the side of the road if you can. In Nicaragua, it is common that you'll see personal dealerships on the side of the road. Now, there's a lot of them, especially in Managua, Esteli, or the bigger cities, okay? Avoid them. I would suggest going online and trying to buy one off a family member. If you buy one off a family member, a single owner, or maybe it's had 2 owners, but there's previous records, that's a lot better. You can trust that they've taken care of their truck. Also, beware where you're buying the truck from. If you're buying the truck from a little city that produces a lot of coffee, you'll know that that truck was probably used at a farm and it was pretty beat up. So if you can go to the city, the capital, or other major cities where they just drive around in main streets, you'll be better off there because you'll buy a vehicle that's going to last you longer and need less repairs. So major key, try to avoid those small dealerships, and also try to buy from family members. If you're gonna buy a new truck, this kind of doesn't apply because you can go to the new car dealerships and those are more responsible and they will take care of you. And the truck is new, so you kind of don't have to worry about this. This is mainly for like used vehicles if you plan on buying one. Now, this one is obvious. Let me tell you, you may think it's obvious, but when you're in this position, it doesn't become obvious. Have patience, okay? When you're looking for vehicles, you're gonna have to drive far distances. People are gonna be late. Things aren't gonna work out. And if you feel rushed to buy one, go ahead and rent a vehicle in the time being in order you can get around and have the right amount of time. Last thing you want to do is rush into buying a vehicle, end up with a bad one, because that's what happened to me the first time. So patience, all right? Tip number 4, here in Nicaragua, things move a lot slower. People say they're going to be there at a certain time. They're not. You just kind of have to learn how to work with that and work with the system. Once you have the patience and you have the time, that will give you the ability to find a good deal and something that's in good condition for you and your family. Now, before I give you the last tip, tip number 5, I'm gonna show you my truck and tell you how much I paid for it so you can kind of get an idea. Now, if you've been hearing some bird noises in the background, some cows or goats, I am at my grandma's farm, so that's why you hear animals in the back, and it is quite windy. But let's get started. So this right here is my truck. This is a 2016 Toyota Hilux. It's been a great truck so far. Super economical on diesel. It's a four-cylinder diesel 4x4 manual, and I've been using this to rebuild my family farm. So this truck here, the grand total that I paid for this truck was $21,000. So it cost me $21,000 for this truck, which I think I found a good deal, because if you look at the Tacoma market or Toyota market in the US, they're like above that with super high mileage. This truck only had 60,000 miles on it when I found it. So that is a smashing deal. And I bought it in the capital of Nicaragua, and it was from a family. Although the paperwork was messed up, the owner never transferred under his name, mechanically, it was still in good condition. So that is how much I paid for my truck. And let me know if you bought one before, and let me know how much you paid. But let's move on to the last tip here. Tip number 5. All right, guys, tip number 5. If you're gonna be looking for vehicles, start the search before you go to Nicaragua. If you're already here in Nicaragua, then that's okay. What I recommend is that you go online to Facebook Marketplace. That's one place you can find it. Number 2 is Encuentre 24. It's like the Craigslist, but here in Nicaragua. And it's the Craigslist of all Central America. So you can look at Guatemala, Mexico, Panama. So if you're in any of those countries, this will work for you also. Keep in mind though, major tip, when you're looking at these websites, it's the same as the US. There is spam on there. Small dealerships will pay people to post, and whoever funnels in the client gets a share of the sale. So when you do call people off these websites, make sure you vet them that they're actual owners and actual families. This will save you money, headache, and a time. So those are 2 main places you can find it. Another area is on the streets. People post them. You'll see a sign on the back of them, or through word of mouth. Tell your family or friends, and maybe someone's selling long distance. You can go look at it, and that's the best way to buy it too. So that is tip number 5 for you, brothers. Now, with the current state of the market here in Nicaragua, the used car market, just know that all vehicle prices are on the higher end. There's a shortage of new vehicles here in Nicaragua. So if someone goes and buys a new truck, they're gonna have to be on a waiting list in order to go ahead and buy it. So because of that, that's driven the demand up and spiked the used car market prices up. So just know if you're buying a truck here this year, you are gonna be paying slightly more of a premium from the previous years. Now, how long this is gonna be going for, I don't know. This is just the current market. So when you buy a used vehicle, just be aware of that, the conditions of it right now. Hopefully in the future, the trucks start coming in again and the prices of the used market goes down. But if you are gonna buy new from the dealer, it might even come with a premium because there's such a long waiting list. Just an FYI with the current market. All right, so what have we learned during this whole video is that I made a bunch of mistakes when it comes to buying my first truck. No, I'm just kidding. I did make a bunch of mistakes, but I'm sharing this with you because I want to be transparent. I want to save you the headaches, the time, and make it easy for you, so that way you enjoy your experience here in this beautiful country. Okay, so make sure to subscribe, keep following me. I'm rebuilding my family's coffee farm, so there's a lot more videos coming along there. There's a couple links below. You're gonna find a link for Encuentre 24, where you can look for used trucks. Not only that, places to rent, dogs for sale, everything you want. Also, buymeacoffee.com. If you enjoyed the video, you can support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee. I'll see you guys to the next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share.